This is 5 Under Side at 10. The loss of a legend.
You know, Lou was a class act both on and off the field.
Cardinals Hall of Famer Lou Brock dies. You'll hear from Ozzie and Whitey about the baseball hero that spanned generations and will be celebrated for years to come. The final goodbye to Officer Tamaris Bohannon.
I have so many friends who are police officers, and I just think about them and their families, so it gets me.
The funeral that brought out thousands of St. Louisans he swore to serve and protect.
We begin with some sad news for St. Louis and Cardinals Nation. Baseball legend Lou Brock has died. Let's take a live look at his statue outside of Busch Stadium, where fans have already started to leave flowers and cards. For those who saw him play, they can still hear 50,000 fans yelling Lou. Good evening. Thank you for being with us. I'm Ann Allred.
And I'm Morgan Young. We have team coverage tonight, starting with Mike Busch, who's looking back at a Hall of Fame career.
He was quite simply one of the greatest Cardinals players ever.
Breaking ball, hit off the pitcher, to the third baseman, no play, base hit, 3,000 for Lou Brock.
Lou Brock may be best known as the centerpiece of one of the greatest trades in baseball history, coming to the Cardinals from the Cubs in June of 1964 for pitcher Ernie Broglio. Broglio never won more than 4 games for the Cubs. Brock became a first-ballot Hall of Famer, and he once told us he always pushed himself to be the best.
One of the things the game demands of you, and that is to bring your A game to the game every day. And sometime when you do, on a day you didn't think you had it, oh man, that was a smile. I got it today.
Brock was at his best on the biggest stage. In 3 World Series, his batting average was an astounding .391. And then, of course, there were the stolen bases.
Well, I think in a sense, our ball club decided to go to the stolen base. I was really instructed to steal bases.
He is still the National League's all-time stolen base leader, and his 118 steals in 1974 is also the league's single-season record. Brock went into the Hall of Fame in 1985 and was a Hall of Famer off the field. Year after year, you could find him helping out good causes, like our baseball camp for kids who are deaf.
There were people there to help me when I started out, and these kids are no different. We are there for them as well.
Lou Brock fought through a number of medical conditions over the last few years and passes away at the age of 81. But when we think of him, we will think of the joy he played with and the joy he brought to thousands upon thousands of Cardinals baseball fans.
And Frank Cusimano grew up watching Lou Brock on the field and had the honor to interview the legend. And Frank is joining us now. Frank, he was always so generous with his time, would always do a million interviews, always said yes. He was just very patient.
He really was, Ann. You know, when most people think of Lou Brock, they think of the 938 steals, they think of the 3,000 hits, or that incredible statistical performance he put on in the last 2 World Series where he hit .414 and .464. But when I think of Lou Brock, I think of the gentleness of the man and the kindness of the superstar. You know, Ann, he grew up in a time period where it was sometimes very difficult for African Americans in Major League Baseball. And many of his contemporary superstars, like Bob Gibson and like Frank Robinson, had hard outer shells, but not Lou Brock. He was the sweetest and the most gentle superstar I've ever been around. I can remember as an 8-year-old going to summer camp with his daughter Wanda. And one day I asked Wanda, could you bring home my glove and have your dad sign it? The next day, Wanda gave me the glove and it said, "To Frank, best wishes, Lou Brock." I've interviewed him like 50 or 60 times, and I've never seen the guy in a bad mood. I talked to Dick Zitzman, his agent, and his very close friend tonight, and he said even at the end last week, when it was looking bad for Lou, the first thing he would always ask Dick, hey, how's Bob Gibson doing? How is Bob dealing with his cancer? That's the type of person Lou Brock was. He will always be remembered fondly here in St. Louis. For more on his magnificent career, let's head out to Busch Stadium and check in with Ahmad Hicks. Ahmad, take it away.
Thanks, Frank. And how ironic is it that the day that Lou Brock passes away is the day that the Cardinals and Cubs are playing? For those who don't know, the Cardinals acquired Brock from the Cubs in 1964, but it doesn't go without mentioning that the Cardinals didn't accept Mr. Brock right away. That is until they saw him run and when they found out who he was outside of the diamond. As Cardinals Hall of Famer Whitey Herzog describes, he never saw Brock in a bad mood. He says he was kind to everyone, no matter the situation, and former teammate Ozzie Smith also had glowing reviews. Take a listen.
In pro ball, and Lou was a class act both on and off the field. He was an easy guy to talk to and was always willing to share his knowledge and stuff of the game. And I think that Lou is what has made Cardinal baseball what it is today. I mean, the excitement that is created he was able to create excitement both with his legs and with his bat, So he was one of the most exciting Cardinals and one of the nicest people you ever want to meet.
And coming up in sports, we'll hear from Whitey Herzog on the Cardinals legend and Hall of Famer Lou Brock. That'll do it for me live in downtown. I'm Ahmad Hicks. Let's send it back to the studio.
Ahmad, thank you. And a lot of you are responding to this news. You're taking to social media to do it. Mary Maggio Kelly says, stealing base after base, he slid in and then pumped up right safe. Also loved the Brock umbrella, but never owned one. We are seeing so many good memories that you guys are sharing. We have Ray Baird, a true ambassador of the sport, one of the greatest Cardinals to ever wear the birds on the bat. As everyone's so sad about this, there's always the good things that people are saying too. Christina Fry, first game with my dad, excited to see Lou Brock on the mound. And of course, we also have Chris Hess, who says, I never had the pleasure of meeting Lou, but I did get to see him play several times when I was a kid. Rest in peace in your field of dreams. Ann.
Morgan, thank you. The National Baseball Hall of Fame is remembering Lou Brock and sent its condolences to his family. Chairman Jane Forbes Clark says Lou and his wife Jackie returned to Cooperstown each summer after his induction in 1985. She says, quote, his smile would brighten induction weekend.
A final tribute.
It's just heartbreaking.
St. Louis comes out to pay its respects to a man who served and protected the community.
A hot day today. Looks like the Labor Day weekend's going to end on a fairly steamy note. We're tracking a bit of a cool down as we head towards the end of the week in just a few minutes.
And I'm Mike Bush, getting ready for a 5 on your side Labor Day weekend tradition, the MDA Telethon. Very different this year in a pandemic, no phones, but you can make online donations at ksdk.com/donate. You always come through for the kids, and I hope you'll join us again, the MDA Telethon, right after the newscast.
One person is dead after a triple shooting in North St. Louis. St. Louis police say officers were called to the 5800 block of Minerva just after 5 this evening. Investigators don't believe the other 2 victims' wounds are life-threatening. We are working to get details on what led to the shooting and if there are any suspects.
Hundreds of people line the streets today honoring the life and career of St. Louis police officer Tamaris Bohannon. He was shot and killed in the line of duty last weekend.
The procession first passed the South City precinct where Officer Bohannon served for more than 3 years. Those who knew Officer Bohannon and those who never met him were there to pay their respects.
I feel sorry for his family and his kids. I have so many friends who are police officers and I just think about them and their families, so it gets me.
Shame. Shame, when are you going to stop? When are you going to stop? You know, he was a good guy,
When the procession made its way to the Cathedral Basilica, there was a crowd waiting there. The Bohannon family did not want cameras inside the service as they said goodbye to the son, brother, father, and husband.
But they did set up speakers on the front steps. Sarah Maki spoke to some people who were out there today.
As Tamaris Bohannon's procession turns the corner, there's a crowd waiting for his arrival.
I made it my business to come over here today.
On their flags, a thin blue line, the same line running across the badges and across the hearts of the police gathered here Sunday afternoon. Philip Wilder lives in South City and saw the police cars rushing through his neighborhood the night Bohannon was shot.
And I said, what done happened? Then when I turned on the TV, on the news, that's when they told me, you know, an officer got shot, 2 officers got shot.
He's here, like so many others, to to honor a man he didn't even know.
He sacrificed his life.
We just stopped to give our respects because it's important.
Bernice Wilkerson drove here and was happy to see so many others assembled.
Makes me very proud. Very proud.
At a time with so much uncertainty, unrest, and unease, she says this is one place people can come together.
These are trying times, but you also have to be mindful and careful and give respect where it's due.
In St. Louis, Sarah Maki, 5 on your side.
There are several ways you can support Officer Bohannon's family. T-shirts are being sold in his honor. You can also donate to Backstoppers, which is helping his family. You can find links to donate at KSTK.com under the As Seen on TV section. Hopefully you are not laboring on Labor Day. It is the unofficial end to summer this weekend, and apparently it is going to feel like the end of summer.
Now, I do want to say this because I was asking Scott about this because I have to plan my first pumpkin spice latte. I have to plan it out, and he told me not quite. I was excited.
You know, we're pulling back. Mother Nature has kind of teased us and taunted us with this hint of cool weather, and it's going to snow out in Denver. Where it was nearly 100 degrees today, they're going to get snow on Tuesday. And because they're going to get stuck with that really chilly weather all week instead of just part of the week, they're keeping it to themselves. So while we will cool down a little bit, it's not going to be quite as cool as it was. Now, this is close to a pumpkin latte spice sunset. Yeah? Okay, Morgan, I'm just saying. That's from Wendy over in O'Fallon, Illinois. Pretty colors for sure tonight. Hopefully you were able to enjoy the sunset. It's been a warm night in St. Louis. We are still around 80 degrees in town. Outlying areas are still in the 70s. Some passing clouds from time to time. Have a little front up here. It's trying to kick off a few scattered showers and a couple of rumbles of thunder across Iowa. You can see it is pretty paltry in terms of thunderstorm action, but 92 was the high temperature today in St. Louis. And lo and behold, that's the 50th day we've been at or above 90 degrees so far this year. On average, 43 is where we are. Last year, we were at 50. Year before, we were 72. Now, we're talking a fairly quiet night. We have a few scattered clouds here and there. Most of the night's going to be pretty quiet. Now, to our north, some of that activity that's up in Iowa may try to drift a little farther south. The front's going to be nudging towards us. Now, this is not a cold front that just comes plowing through St. Louis. And so there's a lot of limitations here on how much we can get in terms of showers and thunderstorms. We're thinking the best chances will stay to our north tomorrow. If we can get something to develop north of St. Louis tomorrow afternoon with the heat of the afternoon, sure, there's a chance we could have a strong storm or two. But we have to get it to develop before we could have a problem. So right now we're thinking most areas are staying dry tomorrow and pretty toasty. Here's that front just kind of stalling out across the region here as we head into Tuesday. Now, last week we were looking at this being to our south and we were on the cool side. Not so much so. We're still around 90 or better on Tuesday. At the same time, Denver, where they were in the upper 90s today, will be seeing snow on Tuesday. So, in perspective, this is a pretty decent forecast, wouldn't you say? Now, temperatures will still be close to that 90-degree mark the next couple of days, maybe into the low 90s even on Tuesday. By Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we are a little bit cooler. Our average high this time of year is 84 degrees, and it's going down. So we're going to see those average temperatures kind of dropping off here through the rest of the month. And yes, we do cool down, perhaps to or a little below average. Right now, Morgan, there's just not a big chance for us to see a lot of rain this week. Very limited chances for rainfall. I know a lot of folks already having to drag the sprinklers out, water the lawns, water the plants to keep them going for another month or so. They may have to keep doing that this week. It doesn't look like big options for rain right now.
Well, I do want to ask, because I did have this conversation with Casey Nolan and Scott, are you excited for fall? Do you want us to have more summer? It was a strange summer, I know, but I'm ready.
Well, it's a strange summer on so many different levels. 2020 can just come and go as quickly as possible. Wouldn't you agree, Ann?
I totally agree. It has just been a wacky year. Although you know this about me, Scott, after years of working together, I am a summer gal. I get a little bit bummed out when summer starts giving up her fight. But I would think, Morgan, you're from Texas. You would like the heat like I do.
No. I am used to the heat. I am accustomed to the heat. It was never okay. I was never okay with it. No, I'm ready for fall.
And there you go.
Sports is next.
Well, it feels great out here, guys. When we come back in sports, we'll continue to remember the legend Lou Brock, and we also check in on the Cardinals as they took on the Baby Bears. Sports is next.
The 5 on Your Side Sports Desk is sponsored by St. Charles Nissan Hyundai.
What's going on, Missouri and Illinois? We begin things tonight honoring the late Lou Brock. As you can see, flowers already being placed outside of his statue outside of Busch Stadium as he passed away earlier this afternoon at the age of 81. But instead of being sad right now, we're going to think about the good times he left us with, because honestly, that's what he would have wanted. The Cardinals acquired the legend in 1964, and from there he left his mark in St. Louis, winning 2 World Series. He had more than 3,000 hits and more than 900 stolen bases, and has possibly one of the best World Series resumes. In 21 games, he batted .391, had 4 home runs, 13 runs batted in, and 14 stolen bases. Cards legend Whitey Herzog reflects on the Hall of Famer, Mr. Brock.
Well, actually, I wasn't lucky enough, Frank, that he got to play for me, but I would have loved to have him. Brock not only was a great base stealer, holding the Cardinal record, he was a good hitter. He had 3,000 hits. He was a tough out, and he was just really a good competitor. And I always said to Vince, I said when I saw him hit a golf ball, how good he could, far he could hit a golf ball. I wish you could have hit like Lou Brock.
Let's talk some Cardinals baseball. After sweeping the Cubs yesterday, they took on the Baby Bears this afternoon, wrapping up their 5-game series. Well, that will wrap up tomorrow afternoon. One interesting note, on ESPN primetime games last year, the Cardinals were 0-4. They were trying to break that streak of bad luck. Before the game, they were honoring Lou Brock, and well, they played with heavy hearts, and they honored him today by scoring a lot of runs. First inning, Tommy Edman at the dish. When he takes John Lester deep, that would start the scoring. The Cubs would tack on a few, but Goldie told Dakota Hudson he would score some runs tonight. He did his part in the 3rd inning. The 3-run bomb, that would give the Redbirds the lead. And then in that same inning, Rangel Ravello, a double. That would score Tyler O'Neill. And the Cardinals, they will go on to win by a final of 7-3. They'll wrap up their series in Chicago tomorrow afternoon at 3:30. And that will do it for us in sports. I'm Ahmad Hicks. Let's send it back to the studio.
All right, Ahmad, thanks. Coming up, even a pandemic cannot stop a St. Louis Labor Day tradition. The big changes made to Greek Fest and how you can take part.
Well, taking a look at today's high, 92 degrees, the low this morning, 71. Now, that's quite a bit above the average this time of year, which is 84 and 65, but we were nowhere near that record high of 102 degrees. We missed that by a good 10 degrees. I'm sure the people in California were, in some cases in the LA area, it was above 120 degrees today. So and that's not a heat index, that's the actual air temperature. Plus they've got the fires going on. You know, all things in perspective, we're doing just fine. Temperatures away from town are down into the 70s right now. Coolest spots down over the eastern Ozarks and across eastern portions of Illinois, but no one is especially feeling pleasant this evening as we have this humid air across the area. And we're going to say, And we have dew point temperatures that are in the 60s, close to 70 degrees. Tomorrow, we are close to that 90-degree mark. The odds of us seeing rain around St. Louis are pretty slim, but north of I-70, both Missouri and Illinois, there could be a storm or two that pops up. And if one can get going with the heat and humidity, there is the potential that there could be a strong storm or two. But that's making a big assumption that the storms actually get going. Tuesday ought to be the hottest day, besides today, out of the last bunch and out of the next bunch. By the end of the week, we're closer to 80. But Morgan, no big, huge cool down on the way here later this week like we were looking forward to.
Okay, I'll keep those fingers crossed for later. Thanks so much, Scott. Well, 5 on Your Side has partnered with Education Plus to spread facts, not fear, when it comes to your child's schooling during the pandemic. One viewer asked, can elementary students be safe wearing a mask in PE while playing dodgeball inside? The experts say students will minimize risks if they wear a mask and sanitize their hands before and after PE class. It is also recommended that all equipment is sanitized between each PE class. For a full list of back-to-school questions and answers, you can text the word SCHOOL to 314-444-5125.
They are still yelling "Opa" to St. Louis Labor Day weekend tradition. The 103rd annual St. Nicholas Greek Festival sure looks a little different this year. Because of the pandemic, all of that lamb and baklava is being served for curbside pickup only. You can place your order online. Creek Fest wraps up tomorrow from 11 a.m. until 7 p.m. at the St. Nicholas Family Life Center in West County. And another Labor Day tradition's coming up next right here on 5 on Your Side, the MDA Telethon. Please join us.
Have a great night, guys.